Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Captain C.A. Richardson here with FlatsClass YouTube, and today what do I have for you? Well, I'm going to talk about my springtime leader system. This is something that I trust. Redfish, big snook. Well, we're even starting to get a few little juvenile tarpon leaking out of the back. So I want to share with you what we're using and why we're using it. And I'm going to do that inside because it's beginning to rain now. And it's been a crazy spring. Lots of wind in March and, well, these uncustomary showers that have been plaguing us here in March. This is the Sunshine State. Don't know what's going on, but I do know I can teach you something about leaders. So let's go inside and do it. It's springtime, and even though today is not the picture-perfect Chamber of Commerce day here in Central Florida, generally speaking, we do have more of the nice weather, and our water is still somewhat clear. We don't have the big summer rains yet, and the tides aren't super high yet, moving bigger volumes of water. So we don't have that color in the water in many places. Some places we do, but in many places we don't. So I'm starting to see signs of spring out there. I've been seeing some juvenile tarpon that were in the very back of these tidal creeks and basins, and now I'm seeing them in river mouths and creek mouths, and even out on the flats. In some places I've seen them on the outside. So I'm starting to see those. I'm also seeing numbers of bigger snook starting to position themselves in the transition zone, getting ready for the summer spawn. So now they're in a position where their metabolism is getting, higher every day. They're starting to feed a little bit more voraciously. Starting to see groups of redfish, bigger redfish. So I'm starting to throw a lot of these 4 and 5 inch soft baits, some of the bigger lures, and this is what I'm focusing on now. With the chance to catch bigger fish, the cobes and the juvenile tarpon and the snook and some of the bigger reds that are now perusing most of the zones that I'm fishing, I wanted to set up a springtime leader. Now in the wintertime, we're going with such light stuff, lots of Ned rigs, lots of small baits, and even when we are fishing for big speckled trout that are in the spawn early part, we're still fishing lighter gear for them. But I wanted something that I felt was going to really work for me. So I'm still using long leaders. I'm still using leaders, I'm going to say, that are in that, I'm going to guess, 5 to 6 foot range. And you're like, wow, that's a lot. How are you getting that in and out of your guide train? I'm doing it pretty easy. Right here I've got a Stunner HD from Fitzgerald, and I've got that set up with a Shimano Sustain. This is 10-pound braid, and I've got this all drawn out for you. I'm using an FG knot, if you will, okay? That little FG knot. Notice how long the tag is on that FG knot. I have found that using the FG knot, if I cut it too tight, and even if I take a match to make it look, well, perfect to everybody else, I find that somehow, some way, no matter how many risotto finishes or half hitches I tie, it will eventually come undone. But if I leave a tag that can fray, it stays intact as long as I want it to. So that's a little bonus tip, if you will. Then attached to that, I have 20-pound fluorocarbon from Diamond Illusion. And I have a lot of it. I have probably nearly 5 feet of it. And then it comes down to this blood knot. Now I put pictures with these knots in this video so that you could see a tighter version of it. And then attached to that, I have a little over a foot, in this case, 30-pound fluorocarbon, tied with a loop knot to my actual swim jig, okay? So that's it. Now I could use 40. And what I did, so that you guys could take a quick snapshot, I actually drew the diagram out here. Don't laugh, it's at least it gives you a formula to use. Now I have found that this moves in and out of the rod guides quite nicely with that FG knot. I'm a big promoter of the modified Albright, and I do that for a lot of my 3 and even 4 foot leaders. But when I'm starting to get those longer leaders, it is necessary to use that FG knot. And it's not that hard to tie. It's just a lot easier to tie, well, in here instead of on the water. But all that being said, this system works extremely well for me. And by adding that little piece of bite tippet there at the end, I feel that it gives me the opportunity to throw to those juvenile tarpon, to throw to those cobias on the back of the rays, to throw up on that hard point or that little gully where I know all those snook are, and survive a strike from those fish that have those rough mouths and have a legitimate shot at landing them. Yet, I didn't want to have that much heavy leader. By having that lighter butt section, what it does is I still get all the body roll and everything I want out of my plastic bait without all that heavy leader weighting it down. Using 15 and 20-pound butt sections really does work for the inshore stuff. I kind of do the same thing when I'm tarpon fishing, except for I might use like a 30-pound or 40-pound butt section and then tie a little bite tippet on there for tarpon. But for me, the whole overall length of this spring leader, generally for me, is about 5 to 6 feet long. It's really personal preference. If you tie everything right, it doesn't cost you any casting distance. And it gives you that buffer zone, especially if you live in one of those fisheries like Mosquito Lagoon or here along the Nature Coast, or maybe in Southwest Florida or West Central Florida, or down in the Florida Keys, or several places there in the areas going north in Florida, where that extra leader length will generate 2, 3, 4 extra bites for sure, especially if you live in pressured areas where the fish won't tolerate it. They're just really tough. I notice it more with the spooky redfish and the snook than I do anything else. I find like the tarpon, in most of the scenarios that I'm fishing them in low light or in places with wind on them, it doesn't matter nearly as much. And the cobia, one day they're dumber than a rock, and then the next day, well, they pull out the old jeweler's loop and look at it. So just to be safe, I'm tying these long spring leaders right now. I think if you practice with them a little bit and get used to them, I'm throwing this on a 7'3" rod, just so you can see here. It's a 7'3" Fitzgerald. This is the Stunner HD. I've got 10-pound diamond braid on here. And the whole diamond fishing product system with their braids and their fluorocarbons and their leader material and their mono and their copolymer, they are the line people. There was a reason why I partnered with them. They are about the best in the business in the offshore side, and a lot of us here in Florida have built a ton of confidence in their products for fishing inshore fish, especially wary fish. All their stuff is top-notch, high-quality stuff. And this just happens to be one example where I can really exploit that, is with leader systems. So if you like what you're learning here at FlatsClass YouTube and you think you want something, well, maybe a little bit more involved, you should go check out FlatsClassUniversity.com. That's where we put courses and classes together. I put lots of bonus tips that go along with those classes and courses online. Plus, we'll be sending you lures every month with videos on how you can best leverage these baits for that time of year to catch more fish. And you get the big discount even on diamond fishing products like braid and things like that at sodiumusa.com by being a FlatsClass University member. That's all I have for you on this, well, rainy day. Until next time, keep those rods bent, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.